Hispanic Love Sports TV. Shout out to the LDBC, Lions Den Community. So here we go. Time for a controversial post, or should I say live stream. If y'all hear that sound like me swigging, I'm drinking some water. So I read a post, which I really just believe it was some cowards that were posing as Hulk Hogan's family, which I don't believe it was his family one bit. Now, I already did a post about Terry Bollea, the wrestling icon, and I offered my condolences to his family. And while I was very offended by what he did, there are times when, for the greater good of things, I can choose to do whatever I choose to do, and as a Christian, I chose to forgive because of his comments. Because we all have a moment of stupidity, and we do dumb things, we say dumb things, and yeah, I'm about to get to that, Ted. I'm about to get to that. And we have the right to either forgive or don't forgive. And I chose to forgive. But let me say this. For all of you rednecks out there and all you entitled racists, and when I say this, I'm not talking about white people in general, but I'm talking about a certain sector of people that just want to propagate foolishness and want to like you're trying to hold the victim hostage and try to coerce them in other words, basically this is what the post said, that at this point calling Hulk Hogan a racist is disrespectful to his legacy. Well, he should have thought about that before he said what he said. At the end of the day, like I said, I forgive him. I've moved on. I'm praying for his family. But we can't just act like it didn't happen. I chose to forgive. I chose to move on. But I don't fault somebody who's like they're offended by that. That's just as serious as if somebody physically assaulted somebody, or the one I'm not allowed to say on YouTube. Y'all know what I'm talking about. If a woman became a victim and the guy who violated her died, she doesn't she doesn't owe him nothing. She don't have to forgive him. As a Christian, absolutely, in order to move on with her life, but it's a process. She doesn't have to explain herself, for even if she forgives, if she still feels the effects of the trauma from what was done and she chooses not to forget, that's her choice as a victim. I'm so sick of when it comes to people in our community, and that's why so many black people are docile, because that is a form of what's the word I'm looking for? It'll come to me. Institutional, well, not institutions. It's another word I'm thinking about, but it's a institutional racism, that has been propagated for systemic racism. That's what I'm looking for. That's been propagated for centuries, for years, all the way back to Jim Crow and even before that. That everybody else, if it had been an Asian person, a Hispanic person, they could be like, I don't forgive. White people, I don't forgive. But when a black person decides to stand up and like, look, I don't like what Hulk Hogan did. It don't mean I don't respect what he did in the ring. I don't like him as a wrestler. None of that stuff, because I can separate that from the man. But Terry Bollea, he was a scoundrel. Like I said, I forgive him. I pray for his family, but he still called black folks the N-word. That's just the truth. F and N-words, and if you're gonna get a nigga, at least get a rich one. I mean, I'm not gonna sit there and act like that. He didn't say that. He got caught, and everybody's racist, and he said everybody's racist to a fault or something like that. At least he did have the guts to admit that he was a racist. But I mean, at the end of the day, he said it. So don't get mad at black people for having a problem with what he said. That's just, and then God rest his soul. God knows I was a Hulkamaniac when I was a kid growing up. And I was, up until that point, I was a big fan of his until I heard him say that. And I'm going to be honest with you, I was feeling some kind of way, and I lost all respect for that guy after that. Y'all excuse my hopefully my audio didn't go out. And then some of the other dumb stuff he did over the years, just things that happened, some of the other stuff that he said and did. I mean, you can't. He lied a lot. He just that didn't have anything to do with racism, but he lied about a lot of things that happened in his career. And it's just like, and people started calling him out. So I mean, like I said, I forgive him, but let's not act like this man didn't do what he did. He chose to tarnish his legacy, not me, not the victim, not the black people who were offended by what you did. It's like some of the people that you came up in the game with that was black, like Junkyard Dog, like The Rock's father, Rocky Soul Man Johnson, Booker T, that was in the NWO with you. Like a lot of these guys that like worked with you, worked hand in hand, and helped you get money, and helped you get where you were. Like I said, I mean, I got to play the others. I got to look at the whole picture. Don't blame those. They have the black people that's upset with him who choose not to forget what he did. They just hold his legacy accountable. He's the reason I watch wrestling, and he did that. Yeah, that's the truth. So don't blame y'all watch some of these people, these trolls. If they come in here talking crazy, block them from here to Guatemala. Don't even put them in time. I just get them off my channel because I'm not gonna deal with this today. Because I'm telling the truth. Y'all don't like it when I tell the truth. But the truth of the matter is, I choose to forgive. God knows I pray for Brooke and what's his son's name, Nick. And their mother and his current wife and everybody that was friends with Hulk Hogan. I know people in the wrestling business who knew him and they worked with him. And I do believe at the end of his life, he chose to give his life to Christ. And I'm happy about that. Now, he never gave a public apology to the black community. I would appreciate it if he done that. But he did give his life to Christ. So hopefully that reflected him no longer being racist or making any racist. I will say after that situation, he never said it again. So I can only hold him to what I know. I know he was a racist because I saw what he did. I saw the fruit. The Bible says that you'll know a tree by its fruit. So if he looked like a duck, quack like a duck, talk like a duck, it's a duck. And the bottom line, Terry Bollea was a racist. He made a comment about Kamala. Yeah, ain't no telling what he said about that whole. I don't support Kamala Harris, but she is a woman of color. I don't think she's black, but she is a woman of color. But if he says something, that's out of pocket, I mean, that's what it is. What it is. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he did say that because he said it in the past. But the whole point of this video, I'm not gonna get a big political discussion, but I will say this: if a black person chooses to not forgive right away, and they just because Hulk Hogan died, and they supposed to just all things are forgotten because he died. No, that's still some. You got to live with the reality of your mistakes. And he tarnished his legacy by what he chose. His choice caused him to tarnish his legacy. Not the next man, not the racist black man who can't get over stuff. Some of the same stuff y'all say, but y'all ain't gonna say that to no Hispanic. Y'all ain't gonna say that to no Asian. Y'all ain't gonna say that to nobody, no Indians, nothing else. But you gonna always try to say that about black folks. So it is what it is. But I forgive. But some of these people they have the right. Don't blame the victim.